Hello, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live on locations and talent strategy. Today, ready to discuss Egypt. Very excited about today's conversation, particularly because we have so many guest speakers, but also because there's been so much interest in the region, and even in this LinkedIn Live, we did see so many different registrations from around the world. So just really excited to hear where folks are dialing in from, what you're hoping to learn about this destination, and generally what your experiences have been in Egypt. And just really excited again to have this conversation, and particularly with the esteemed peers and guests that are with us today. I think maybe what we can do is get started with introductions as folks start to dial in. And I say that because, as you know, in this platform, we're all connected to our LinkedIn profiles. So anything that you want to know about any of us, you can find below in the details of the event itself. So to get straight into it, my name is Rita Soni. I am Principal Analyst for Impact Sourcing and Sustainability Research. And I would love to mention all of the guests that are here. Badal Jain is a Vice President in our GBS practice. And then we have Najia, who's with PepsiCo and is the Cairo Business Service Hub Leader for GBS. We have Rami, who's from Voice. He is the head of Vodafone Intelligent Solutions with the Egypt Center and Global Care at Vodafone. And finally, we have Shireen, who is the head of Investment and International Business Development at ITEDA. As I said, very esteemed panel, and I think ready to have a great conversation. I think we've already started to hear from some folks that are dialing in, and they're not telling us where they're from, but that's okay. I like the claps. I think that's a great place to start. So yeah, it would be great to just get straight into, maybe we have just a couple of slides, some of them a little bit of an eye test, but a couple of slides to give us a little bit of a background on what we're talking about within Egypt, but then really to prompt more conversation. Oh, we've got another New Yorker. I'm dialing in from New York. So if we can go to the first slide, it would be great. So just to kick us off and ask, and Badal, it would be great to get your insights into global services market as we hone in on what's happening here in Egypt.
Thank you so much, Rita, and very excited for today's event. To get it started, want to talk a bit about overall the global services market in Egypt. In our view, I think Egypt is one of the most mature offshore nearshore markets that offers a large kind of talent pool, multilingual in all prospects as well. And the market is currently about 211,000 FTEs strong. The location has kind of stood the test of time, shown very solid growth fundamentals, and the CAGR is almost similar to what we see for overall global services delivery as well. And if we were to examine the growth of Egypt in terms of new delivery center setups, that has also remained kind of steady. We've seen majorly heavy domination by the GBS, which is Global Business Services for those who are new to the term, which is GBS is essentially the in-house model, the shared services captive operations as known in different geographies. So in terms of new delivery center setups, that segment kind of dominates it. And overall, we're seeing good prospects. In fact, I'll now probably ask Nagia if you would want to comment on the scale, scope, and the kind of growth that PepsiCo has seen in Egypt.
Thanks a lot, Parul, and very happy to be among this list of speakers today. So, like you rightfully said, Egypt has been, over the past few years, maturing as one of the most attractive locations in the Middle East and Africa, providing services globally, and I think we'll delve deeper into that today. But also what we've been seeing over the past few years is the maturity of the kind of work that is being offered out of Egypt. I think globally the entire shared services market is shifting a bit, especially with a lot of automation, a lot of all of these like machine learning, AI technologies that are joining us. A lot of these transactional services that you used to rely on cost efficient locations are being automated, and then you're shifting to more and more complex, I would say, capabilities and more advanced analytical capabilities. And I've been seeing that also with the work that we've transitioned. So maybe we're not we're quite recent in the global business services area, but I've seen that also over the past 4 years that we've been live.
Interesting. And Rami, if you would also want to kind of share a view around how has voice operations kind of grown, evolved in Egypt. And we know from a telco standpoint, it's one of the most mature players that we see operating in Cairo. So how has been the journey for voice?
Well, thank you very much for that question, and welcome everybody. Great to be here, and thank you for having me. So Vodafone Intelligent Solutions have been in Egypt for a very long time, and maybe that's a good question to ask our audience if they know how long Voice has been in Egypt, and then we can tell them at the end of the call. But it has been a very long time, and we have kind of evolved through different stages. We started with the transactional phase, as Najaya was explaining right now, and we evolved from that to have very sophisticated and deep GBS work transferred to us. We also work in technology, customer care, FinOps. So too many service lines are operating out of Egypt. Voice is huge. Voice is around 30,000 people across the world, and Egypt is 9,000 of that. So it's more than third. So more than third of all Voice is actually delivering the services out of Egypt, which is something that we are very, very proud of.
Thank you so much, Rami. Rita, I know you visited Egypt late last year and very excited to hear about your learnings and the interactions you've had in the market.
Farrell, I think you should be honest. I think it was a little less excitement, a little more FOMO. I'm just kidding. No, it was an amazing trip. It was my first time going to Egypt, and I was hosted quite wonderfully through the team at ITIDA, and it was really great. I think we visited about a dozen different centers across GBS and across the procurement vendors as well. And it was just a really amazing experience. So as I mentioned in my introduction, I focused in on impact sourcing. So certainly my lens in going to Egypt was, what's the story vis-a-vis impact sourcing? So what are the interesting, inclusive talent strategies that are happening there? And seeing things like targeting solo parents, particularly women, and coming up with really flexible workplaces in order to accommodate that, or seeing the workforce progress for people with disabilities as they, grow in a business. It was all very, very exciting and inspiring to see. That said, I know that there's a lot more to the talent in Egypt than impact sourcing, even though that was my area of passion. So yeah, I think it would be great to pull up our slide that gives a little data on who all are operating in Egypt. And
Yep. And thanks, Rita. And if you can bring up the slide that we have on the, if I were to just talk about the talent landscape in particular, right? If you're directly talking about, say, the entry level or the graduate pool, Egypt has a large population, hence resulting in large chunks of graduates that come out on a annual basis, about 429,000 tertiary graduates that are there, coming from about 91 odd different universities. And in general, if you were to compare this with other offshore, nearshore locations that cater to the European market, this is a distinctive kind of advantage that plays in favor of Egypt. The sheer size of the numbers in terms of graduates, in terms of the quality of the graduates as well. I think the other piece is around the multilingual capabilities that the location offers. So while the primary delivery language is Arabic, English, French, German, but we've also seen companies kind of delivering more than about 20 odd languages in some cases as well. So really a diverse view, diverse multilingual mix that is can be made available from the city. In terms of overall different locations, Cairo, the capital city, undoubtedly is the primary education and business hub. And there are other locations like Alexandria, Suit, which are also are kind of blooming up in more domestic market standpoint as well. I think in terms of the services mix, traditionally we've seen more of, as Rami and Nagia mentioned, right, more of transactional services, more of business process voice related stuff. But we're seeing that pivot towards IT services as well, especially since 2020. And within IT, a lot more on the application side that is gaining traction, application development work that's happening from cities like Cairo. And overall, you see, if you talk about the key players that are present in the location, a very healthy mix of, GBS, Global Business Services, and service providers. You'd see a mix of different industry verticals sprinkled here. So you've got the likes of Amazon's, Microsoft, Nokia, a lot of the tech, and you've also got the likes of PepsiCo, Visa, Dell's, Henkel's coming in. So it kind of offers a very good variety of verticals and companies that are present in the location here. With that, I think I also wanted to understand, if you were to go beyond the companies in terms of what kind of talent, what kind of skills are available in Egypt. So Rami, let me ask you this one. Which skills in your experience have been the easiest to hire versus most difficult to find? And for the ones that are difficult to find, what kind of initiatives have you taken in terms of reskilling or skill building that help you bridge that gap?
Since our establishment in Egypt a long time ago, as we have just said, we thought that Egypt was the best kept secret for us, and we were just adding service after service, and we didn't have any competition. Now with the new entrants, of course, with the number of with the demand increasing and the supply, sometimes you get some constraints. However, it's like anywhere in the world. Egypt is part of the global market now, and with remote working and hybrid working, so anybody can hire anyone anywhere in the world. So the skills which are high in demand and are rare by nature are hard to find even in Egypt. And the ones that are easy to find relatively can be also easy to find in Egypt. However, Egypt has a kind of a sweet spot of potential to serve Western Europe, especially because of the bouquet of languages that we have, because we have enough people that can speak most of the top 4 or 5 European languages across other skills, so across engineering, across finance, across HR, across care. So it makes it a very good location to have a very large center and deliver multiple service. Scaling is a different story, of course. So scaling takes time, and as I said, rare skills are rare even in Egypt, unfortunately.
Thanks, Rami. And you pointed out an interesting piece, which is around how you see Egypt similar to all global markets in terms of skilled availability. And one question, a related point to Shireen as well now, is that in terms of adoption of hybrid and the this talent actually just becoming available not just from a particular city but from others as well, how do you see that shaping up in Cairo? Are there any rules governing it, any regulations about it? How overall at an industry level do you see majority of the companies shifting to the hybrid model? What are your views on that?
Yes, most of the companies are taking advantage of this option, and we were fortunate enough as as a country because we had this major infrastructure upgrade even before COVID hit the world. So we were basically ready before starting the first wave of working from home. Within, I remember at the start of the COVID, within 2 weeks, 50% of the workforce were working from home, and then 80% were working from home. So it was very rapid, very quick, and very efficient as well. And many companies are taking advantage of this at this stage because we have some untapped talent in several governorates across Egypt, in Upper Egypt, and other governorates as well. So I believe that many companies are having their own internal system to benefit from this, whether they get the staff for some periodical meetings to get this feeling of their place, their headquarters, and so on. However, most of the companies are doing this. Yes, yes. And Romya and Nagaya can tell their experience in this regards.
I think our infrastructure was truly tested during COVID, and we were pleasantly surprised. So I was just sharing this example recently that we were like a couple of weeks after we went into lockdown and we transitioned to work from home. I received a call from one of our offshore stakeholders, and he was asking me to tell him before. So he's the GM of one of the business units we deal with, and he was telling me, just let me know before you transition to work from home so that we can prepare for any drops. And I told him, we've been working from home for 2 weeks now. Your team knows there was no drop at all. And I think we were all pleasantly surprised by how strongly the infrastructure supported that, because this was a true test, and even a test in the minds of the non-believers, that work can be done from an offshore location, that work can be done seamlessly from home, and so on. So it was truly a testament that we could have spent years to prove it, but it just was one of the good things that happened with COVID.
Yeah, I second that. I remember when lockdown hit, I was only 2 weeks in the job, so I got a call and then a crisis management call, and guys, we just need to move 6,000 people to work from home, and I was like, guys, I've just been here for 2 weeks, but the team in Voice has been amazing. So actually, in 2 weeks. Shireen, we managed to have 80% of our population working from home, which was an amazing achievement. And in our case, serving live audio and live chats really depends on the quality. So it's not just about having the connection; it's about having the right latency and having the right bandwidth to be able to deliver care services, for example, which was amazing. And we were actually the only provider for some of our operating companies outside in Europe that was actually working during that period. So Egypt saved a lot of our service levels at that time, and it was great. We had even people working from outside of Cairo and Alexandria, which was amazing. I think the work that has been done in the infrastructure in the last few years really gave us that opportunity to do so.
That's such a great story, but for both companies on how quickly you were able to get back online and scale up. That's amazing. Rami, I'm not sure if you've been able to see some folks have guessed about the age of voice in Egypt. Hawada said 20 years. Hassan Ahmed said 2008. Hassan Ayad said 2006. And Ahmed Alam said 2002. Do we have any correct answers?
So we've been in Egypt for the last 16 years. So 2006 is close, and we've managed to grow from a very small team serving New Zealand and Australia to 8,000 people, or 9. We're actually closing 9 now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. The other thing I wanted to just comment on while we're talking about all these successes, even just for this conversation, we at Everest Group are very bullish about the whole continent of Africa. And just sitting on this LinkedIn Live, we have representation from lots of Africa. Of course, many people dialing in from Egypt, but also South Africa, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, really amazing. And we'd love to hear about these global experiences within the continent. We also have some folks dialing in from Europe, from the UK, Albania, and Copenhagen, and then not just me sitting here in New York, wishing to be in that time zone. When I left Egypt, I did say that I wished I could just relocate myself to Africa and spend much more time there. So this is great. I think.
Sorry for the interruption, Rita. If you allow me to answer one of the questions in the comments.
Sure, please.
We have David Brooks. He's asking, outside of Cairo, what other cities would you recommend are suitable for growth and for multilingual qualifications specifically? And I would recommend Alexandria, of course. And we have Voice. They have their own premises in Alexandria as well. And we have several multinationals operating from there. It's a very good option for them to explore, and we will be very happy to help.
Yeah, if I may build on this, Shireen, I think it really depends on which type of business they are looking for. Definitely, Alexandria is a great place because that's the second largest city in Egypt. It has many reputable universities. They have very good engineering and technical graduates. Actually, there is another fun fact that around 40% of the CEOs of all the tech companies come from Alexandria University. So it's a really good hub for technology. But again, if we think of the hybrid and the remote working, we've had this opportunity or the target to expand our offering to anybody who can meet our skills criteria in order, to give, to support inclusion of people who do not have access to employment. And we managed to have 25% of our all hirings outside of Cairo and Alexandria. So 25% of the 9,000 actually don't live either in Cairo nor in Alexandria. So in the Delta, around Mansoura area, in Asyut, there is also good talents. So it really depends on which skills you're looking for, what type of business you are doing. But if you have the right infrastructure, the tech infrastructure that enables your team to work remotely, then the whole of Egypt is up for grabs. You don't have to be constrained to any one city.
sounds amazing. It also sounds like Badal and I need to be packing our bags and visiting much more of Egypt and checking out those new centers. Before we get into a little bit more around the areas of cost of operations and risk, just wanted to do a shout out about some of the amazing research that's coming out of Badal's team. We are, like I said earlier, we're doubling down on the whole continent of Africa and very excited about the work that's happening there. So we would like any of you that are joining this this LinkedIn Live to click on the link that's in the chat for a couple of report abstracts as complimentary. There's really incredible insight that's coming from the team across the continent, and actually, I think, Badal, you have a couple of reports that are coming out very soon that go into even further detail. I don't want to give too much of a foreshadowing, but maybe you can mention that.
Absolutely. I think one of the most awaited reports is our coverage that will probably be coming in 6 to 8 weeks from now about the overall Africa and Middle East, and we'll be specific focusing on the key geographies. Obviously, Egypt will be the one that will be outshining there, and we have more details. Some of those already, I think, copied on the chat. So in case of interest, do let us know. We'll be happy to share those versions as well. And Chiara, if you could now also talk about the costs of operations and the risk environment in Egypt.
Just one thing, Parul, before you go into the cost, about the studies that you do and that others do, the white papers, all of that. This was actually part of our, I would say, due diligence work that we were doing before we were moving work, because you asked earlier, how do you know about the skills availability, about the talent availability, etc. The work that you were doing and that others were doing, and the contribution, the ecosystem in the market in Egypt, that was one of the strong reasons that we had faith that we were expanding into new capabilities, new services that we were not sure we'd find talent, and suddenly you'd find this untapped pool of talent when you look at certain capabilities, when you look at a mix of a capability and language proficiency and all of that. So I second the shout out to the work that you guys do.
Thank you so much, Nagia. Always good to hear that feedback coming in and kind of encouraging us to put in more kind of research out there. So thanks for that. Double clicking on the financial and proposition that the location offers here, I think undoubtedly the fact that Egypt has a lucrative financial proposition stands out there. In fact, to put some numbers to it, almost an arbitrage of about 80% if you were to compare it to source destinations, the prime of US or UK. And that kind of, there are minor variations in different functions, but roughly about 80% that we're looking at. And while this arbitrage was a little bit lower in the couple of past years, but the currency devaluation has made it attractive in these foreign terms as well. So that's one of the reasons. And if you were to compare Egypt with some of the other offshore destinations or the nearshore Central Eastern European locations, the operating cost is amongst the lowest ones in terms of not just salaries, but also facilities and technology. So the overall combination just becomes very financially attractive. And we were talking about tier 2 cities, Alexandria, before. So if players are looking at locations beyond Cairo, some of these alternate locations they'll benefit from an early mover advantage as well as even lower cost of operations. So that comes in as a bonus advantage for Alexandria as well. Coming to the infrastructure part, and I see already a couple of comments on the infrastructure as well. I think overall, if you were to look at the scalability of infrastructure or the quality of infrastructure, especially as a gateway to kind of look at the overall continent, Egypt offers one of the most reliable propositions when it comes to infrastructure here. In fact, the overall geographic proximity and just a 2-hour difference with Europe, that kind of puts Egypt in a strategic advantage space there. All of this obviously comes with, there are pieces around, say, macroeconomic challenges because of the currency devaluation that put into some of these areas to watch out for and carefully monitor. There are, however, efforts by the governments to kind of improve the conduciveness of the business, ease of doing business, with a lot of these tax and reforms that are coming in. We also see a lot of investments coming in, especially in the tier 1 cities. So that's there. I see a question from Dalia that the current inflation rates, retention rates at GBS. So from a wage inflation rate perspective, for contact center services, this is almost high single digit numbers that we see in the market, about 8 to 10%. For IT services, just like any other locations, it is a bit higher. I'll probably ask this to Rami as well. What has been your experience with the inflation rates? Have you experienced the same? Is it higher, lower for voice? How does it go for your organization?
So inflation, of course, is the other side of devaluation, and vice versa. Anybody who studied economics would tell you that inflation starts, and then at a certain point of time, the country needs to rebalance its currency to match its relative relation with the other currencies in the world. So the macroeconomic situation created this inflation, and actually devaluation is a blessing because it helps us cover that inflation, or part of it at least, because we can then increase the cost in the local currency. But the situation before the devaluation was the other way around. So if you look at just before the devaluation, we had COVID, we had fuel prices going up, we had inflation going up, and we didn't have the devaluation to support increasing salaries. So we had a very terrible couple of years where we were struggling to match this. But now that we have that devaluation, it gives us room to match or compensate our colleagues for some of this inflation and still be competitive, and give competitive rates to our partners. So again, it's all about how you look at things, and you need to play the long game always, not be looking at the specific year you're in, because especially for captive organizations, the decision is for a very long time. We don't go in and go out in one year to the other. We tend to stay for 16 years, as we said. So we've learned that these are cycles. You need to be agile enough to deal with the peak, and you need to be agile enough to deal with the lows. But in a nutshell, if there is devaluation with inflation, then it's good. The terrible situation is when you have too much inflation without devaluation. So in that view, I think not everybody will like what I say, but devaluation is a blessing for us.
In our line, it is a blessing.
Yeah, for all exporting industries, it's definitely a blessing.
One question that keeps coming up, and I think I've heard it multiple times, and we've supported it with data, but I want to hear your views as well. With so much of devaluation happening, the question that comes up is, has Egypt become even cheaper than India? And I know, Rami, Voice has operations large operations in India as well. How does that compare in your view?
This is the first time in my career where we are able to compete with India.
In terms of financial attractiveness, of course.
In terms of financial attractiveness.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So then it confirms the research that we've also been doing. So good to get that validation. And Nagia, would you also want to comment on that? How has it been for PepsiCo?
I'll comment on another part that Delia was asking about. She was asking what's the secret recipe for the known attrition, at least in the industry. I think you're talking to two of the best companies in making sure we attract and retain the best. And our secret recipe is really that we hire at least we know that like we hire really good people and we make sure to grow them. So it has been a competitive market because also with the devaluation and with the inflation, the fight for the good talent is becoming more and more challenging, which is also good news for the good talent because they're getting like great players in the field fighting for them. But really, the secret sauce there is to make sure that we're growing the industry, to make sure that we're growing the people that we're attracting.
And Nagia, now that you mentioned this is becoming a competitive space, globally. My question then is one to Shireen here. Shireen, in order to attract all of these global logos, what are some of the incentives that are made available to kind of operate out of Egypt?
Okay.
And I know you can kind of continue on this for hours because there are so many details to share. But what you think will be relevant, especially from a global services angle?
If you would allow me, I would like to start with some of the logistical support that we offer to companies first and then tap on the incentives. Because in my opinion, and I believe that the logistical support that we offer is crucial and pivotal for setting up a successful business in the offshoring industry in Egypt. We have an entire team of relationship managers who provide 360-degree support to multinationals throughout their journey in Egypt, helping them to maximize the benefits of investing in the country. We help them building their business case, and this is the first thing that most of the companies do, the exercise that they do, the due diligences. We arrange for customized due diligences, meeting with existing companies that are already operating in the country, meeting with universities, access to talent pool, and we also reply to their RFIs, and we avail information about the industry and indicators. And we considered ourselves as the focal point for these companies in Egypt. And this is the beginning of the support. This is the first interface between the government and the new investors coming to Egypt. As for the incentives, we offer incentives in the form of fully funded talent pool development programs. And the government is investing heavily in the talent pool development because our aim is to maintain a sustainable supply of qualified talent pool to meet the changing demands of the industry, because it's a very dynamic industry, as we all know. And as Nagia mentioned, there's always a fight for the best talent, and we're aware of that. That's why we need to keep the supply of qualified talent pool coming. We have several programs for the capacity building upgrades. We have customized programs. I'm going to start with the flagship train to hire program offered by ITIDA. We offer program, of course, it's fully funded and it's customized based on each company's curriculum, based on each company qualifications required, languages required, and so on. So it's totally up to the company to choose everything, even the screening of the candidates and everything, and we'll just fund it. We're also collaborating with the ministry and its affiliates, NTI and ITI, and they are the major two entities responsible for the talent development. We're collaborating with them and several multinationals like Atos and Valeo to establish their own virtual training academies here in Egypt, again, according to their curriculum and their needs and so on. So this is when it comes to the customized talent pool development. And but across the nation, we have a massive capacity building strategy and initiative implemented by the ministry itself. And it starts with students in schools in grade 7. We give training on software development, digital arts, robotics, AI, and so on. And we go up to the advanced technologies and advanced levels. We even have this master's degree scholarship that is again fully funded by the government, and it's in collaboration with international universities like Queen's University, Ottawa University, Cork University of Ireland, and it's targeting students majoring in computer engineering. And it's tackling the fields of AI, again, robotics, digital arts, and artificial intelligence. The whole initiatives of the ministry, we have, it covers lots and lots of students across different educational level. And on annual basis, we have like 250,000 trainees enrolling in these training programs. So we're capitalizing on the talent pool because we're definitely, this is one of the main pillars of our value proposition as a country. So the funded talent programs, these are the incentives that we're providing to investors coming to Egypt.
Thanks, Shireen, for providing the detailed view on that. And we've talked about the good things already. I'm going to also ask about the trade-offs that companies need to consider. So, Rami, Voice has been in Egypt for a long time now. If you were to give maybe just top three piece of advice to any new company that's looking to set up in Egypt, what would that be? What are some of the challenges they may face, and how can they kind of mitigate that?
Okay, so I think the advice would be to really understand their objectives and their specialized, the focus strategy, rather than coming in with, Egypt can do everything for you, because this is not going to happen. You need to have a focus strategy and understand what you actually want to build, and you need to do that in stages. Companies that were successful, they started with one thing, they focused on that, they give it the right time to scale, and then they move to the next one, and then to move to the next one, and so on and so forth. The ones that came in and just they wanted to do everything at the same time didn't make it, because it's difficult to do that. I always make the analogy of the airplane. If you want to fly, you need to run the runway. The runway is 4 kilometers, but there is 1 second that you will have liftoff after 4 kilometers. But you need to always remember that there is these 4 kilometers that you need to run first. So don't rush scaling. You need to take your time to understand the country, understand the dynamics, get the right team on board, get the right connections to do so. The second one is, as any country, Egypt has its own specific issues. So you need to have people that have experience in the market to tell you how to go around those obstacles, because the slides have shown more than 80 centers operating. So all of these 80 centers have made it. So you can make it too. It just, you need to know how to do that. So you need the right talents. In our situation also, ITIDA was very helpful. We used ITIDA several times to untangle some of the issues that we had. It reached the point where anything that goes wrong, call ITIDA, short of complaining from the weather. But I think we are asking the team to take it easy on them, just to call them for the important things only, because we've now matured and we're established. So these are the things that come directly to my mind. But having operated in other geographies, I don't see Egypt as specifically difficult. It will be as difficult as any country you would go and set up shop in, whether in Europe, Eastern Europe, or Asia. So it's just, you just need to know the right keys to open the doors.
Very insightful. I was looking for a thumbs up emoji when you gave that aeroplane analogy. Unfortunately, the current platform doesn't have it, but yeah, that's a good analogy to keep in mind. Nagia, next question to you. Building on to what the kind of incentives and such a bouquet of incentives that Shireen talked about, which of these, either these or past incentives, has PepsiCo taken advantage of? Which ones do you recommend? Hey, these are the golden ones that companies should kind of go after. And what are the other skilling initiatives you may have undertaken? Just a bit to understand about the talent and the support from ETIDA on that front.
I think I'm jealous of those who will be able to make use of the train to hire program. So I wish we could use that. It's not applicable to the kind of services or the kind of skills that we're hiring. But definitely that's something I would advise anyone who is expanding in the IT and the IT services space to check out. I would say kick off the discussion with Itida. I think they've been like at some point I was joking about like they're chasing us, like they are the ones who are benefiting from us more than benefiting from this more than us. But it does have a lot of benefit for us, because when we were talking about expansion and when we were talking about setting up in Cairo and expanding the work, we moved to Cairo. We also wanted the team to come here, the global team to come here, and because there's nothing like seeing it real time. Like I can talk about how other companies have centers in Egypt, how other capabilities, complex capabilities are expanding, languages, etc. But when the team came here and we partnered with Itida on visits to other companies, on these discussions or these dialogues that we had, where all the questions and all the concerns were answered, I think this is unmatchable to other. We're already a cost attractive location, so the incentives, the financial incentives, is really a good thing. We don't want that to stop, but the real benefit is in setting up this ecosystem of capabilities. And I think, like I was saying earlier, and like Rami rightfully said, we're maturing as an industry globally. So I think we'll keep also recognizing, like today, if I needed certain programming skills, tomorrow I might need new skills. So are we skilling up for the future as well? And this is where also having these frequent discussions is useful. So we talk frequently with Itida to tell them what we've been up to, where we're expanding, where we're thinking to expand. Is this capability, or is this language, or is this skill available in the market? Do you have access to talent there, and so on?
So, Nagia, for the benefit of the audience, you mentioned some of those skills are not available to PepsiCo. So, what are the functions that you are delivering so others also know, hey, this is not going to be applicable to us, but for IT?
I would say always talk, like always have the discussion. But the work we offer out of Cairo Business Services, we have commercial sales services, we have HR ops, we have consumer marketing and engagement, supply chain, and most recently financial planning. So, but because of also in some cases the seniority we needed, so in some cases we're looking for fresh grads, in some cases we're looking for more experienced hires, and so on. But
Understood.
I would
I
always
see.
ask them. So recently we were checking the availability of certain European languages. So I reached out to Riyadh and Shireen, and I was asking them, like, can we have these and these talents? So I would say always check first.
Understood. And I see a stream of questions coming in. So I'll take the one from Hassam Ayad. How can organizations leverage location data and talent intelligence to optimize their workforce planning and diversity hiring in a hybrid work environment? A very interesting question. I think partly what Nagia mentioned in a couple of minutes earlier around how they also leverage some of this research intelligence that is available when they were looking at comparing different locations. I think when you're talking about workforce planning, it is more than just about what the location has to offer. In the first time, you need to also understand what is the demand you're looking for. So once you've mapped out for what skills, what roles you want to hire, what's the time frame you're looking at, then the demand needs to be matched with the supply that's coming out of the location. What is available, what needs to be bridged, either by different hiring plans or skilling programs, etc. uh, we also do a lot of tracking about different or 30 or different countries in one of our AI powered platforms called Talent Genius. That we'll also be sharing a link to that platform in the chat right now if anybody wants to kind of get a demo of that. But a lot of that information is available on a DIY kind of mode where companies are actively using that. But I think it gets more important when you're talking about, say, hybrid work environment, because you're not just talking about what's available in the city, but you're also talking about the talent that's available on the outskirts and maybe willing to travel a few days a week to kind of make that cut. So a lot of your catchment areas increase. So your nearby regions, not just the city, also gets that boost, and that talent pool, that influx is kind of much more powerful than just what is available within the boundaries of the city. Uh, I also see more questions coming in. So one of the things, okay, so uh, can you comment on, so Rami, I'll pose this to you. Can you comment on soft skills related initiatives undertaken by the industry ecosystem to bolster the skill sets of resources? I think, sorry, this is better suited for Shireen. Shireen, what are the initiatives taken on soft skills by the industry?
Yes, all of the talent development programs that I talked about, it's covering soft skills, language upskilling, as well as technical skills. So the whole spectrum, we're covering it as a government. It's totally based on the company's needs.
Parul, on that same question.
Can I comment on this one? I think Voice was one of the main beneficiaries of such programs, and with our dialogue with ETIDA, we convinced them to back like 2 years back or 3 years back to channel the train to hire differently. So we managed actually to get lots of training, not only for technical stuff. We also got for soft skills. We got for data privacy. Anything that we lacked experience, they could help us, build those skills within the organization. One of the key initiatives that is very important for me is that they help us fast scale. So, for example, if we have a rare skill, you get like 10 people every month. But if you put that train to hire, it becomes on steroids. So instead of getting 10, you'll get like 15, 20 after it is, and it's exponential after that, because you just look at where is the gap that you're missing. You're not fully training someone on a subject, but you get the people who are missing one angle, one part, and then you complement that. Then they are ready to be hired, and then we bring them back into the funnel. So I think this is the fact that they are agile and happy to discuss and reshape the program is key for us.
Sounds like a real jigsaw puzzle that you've sorted out, or all of you have sorted out, which is really interesting. Not a question, but I think an answer to this question that just came up is highlighting that Hans has highlighted that there's cultural readiness in Egypt that is harder to train than technical skills. So I think that was a really interesting comment, and not really something that came up in our discussion. So nice to hear that others are experiencing this benefit.
Yeah, I would like to comment on this, because we have this cultural heritage and cultural diversity in Egypt, where it's very easy for us to have this cultural affinity with the European and the Western world. And this is due to several factors, the first of which we have several international schools operating from Egypt and the international universities as well. And of course, we're a touristic destination in the first place. So that's why we're used to having foreigners all the time coming through Egypt. All of these factors, they have contributed to the youth, the Egyptian youth being having this cultural affinity to the Western world. Thank you, Hans, for pointing that out.
Great. It does seem like this conversation could go on for hours, and I would love to do that in person one of these days. Go ahead.
I was saying there's another question from Omar. He says, why the global market recently had a lot of doubt regarding resources in Egypt, providing courses, diploma in technology. It was there this piece around this confusion coming in. Was that something across the other companies as well, or was it just an exception? Any comments? I'm opening it up to all three of you.
I mean, I haven't seen that where I work, but I think this is more of, I don't see this as an Egypt specific problem, to be honest. I've seen, like, we've been hearing about fake institutions that would give you like a boat diploma for years and years. So I would say that employers should just do the due diligence to hire from reputable universities, and they are many. So if there is doubt, I think it might have been because, like Rami was saying earlier, you need to understand the market. If I'm coming to operate in Egypt and I do not understand the market, then I wouldn't know if this university or college, someone heard about it or not, or does it have a reputation in the market or not.
Yeah, from my side, from my experience, having worked in different geographies, I think this is the least problem I can think of for Egypt. In other geographies, I had PhDs and MBAs, done on a laser jet. So it's not the specialty for Egyptians. Don't worry about that.
Thank you both. I'm cognizant of the time, but I just want to have one more question, and that's Shireen to you. There's a lot of news around the development of the new administrative capital. My question is, how does that impact global services industry? Will things look different for the current capital, Cairo, once the development of the new capital has been completed?
In fact, the new administrative capital, it's part of a huge development plan that's been going across Egypt for a couple of years now. And our aim is to make it the EMEA business hub. And as part of the digital transformation strategy of the ministry, we have established a knowledge city within the administrative capital, and it's a hub for companies working in R&D and electronic design. Currently, we have 30 companies operating from there. We also have a plan for the knowledge city, and it's already in place. We have six foreign universities established in the knowledge city, as well as Egypt University for Informatics, and it's of course focusing on the information technology and communications, and in partnership with one of the top universities in the US in computer engineering, which is the University of Purdue. So we're working hard to make this a very attractive spot for innovation and technological advancements, and to encourage companies to come and operate from this place. And of course, we have the Creativa Innovation Hub. It's established over there with state-of-the-art facilities, and even a high-tech lab that was established with one of our partners, Siemens. And we have lots of other centers of excellences operating from there. As for Cairo, Cairo will stay magical as always, and there will be several vacant buildings in Cairo. and we'll make sure to avail these buildings to investors at a competitive cost. So I see it as a win-win scenario for everyone.
So, Nagia, another thing to be jealous of for the new companies that are coming in, lots of space at competitive prices available. All right. Back to you, Rita.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what a great conversation. As I said earlier, we could go on and on. I'm going to encourage everyone or remind everyone about the amazing things about this platform. As soon as we finish, the recording is going to be available, so you can pause and look at our hard to read slides or eye test slides at your leisure. There's also a tab for networking where you can connect with anyone that was registered for this LinkedIn Live, as well as the detailed page where you can connect with any of the 5 of us. It looks like there's already some questions about who is ITDA and how do I connect with them. So I think, Rakesh, you're totally welcome to connect with everyone. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Rami, Shireen, Nadia, and Barul for such a great conversation. And I look forward to more.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much
for taking up the time. Hope this was helpful. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.